friend, Roger Christofferson here again with another first listen review. This year is just starting off with some really cool stuff. The last couple weeks, not a whole heck of a lot coming out. This week, a whole bunch of stuff coming out, more than I'm going to be able to possibly listen to and review in a timely manner, but I tried to pick what I thought was going to be the most interesting. Maybe not the best, but the most interesting. And yeah, of course, I want it to be the best. But I had already done a review of the first one of these, which is the new one from Neal Morse. This one is entitled "The Restoration Joseph Part 2." So I thought I knew what I was getting with this one. I was so wrong. I partially knew, but the last one was a little bit more mellow, as far as it wasn't like a rock album, I didn't think anyway. This one is more of a rock album. It started out rocking pretty good, although it's still got the proggy stuff going on. It started out just kicking butt. So he's got a lot of guests on this one, as always. He takes on the part of Joseph, but he's got all these guests, vocalists and other stuff on here. He's actually got Tad Leonard, Matt Smith, Jake Livgren, Nick Virgilio, I know I was going to say it wrong, Ross Jennings, which those last two there, he's got an album they just come out with under their name. What was it called? I can't think of what they said. Anyway, just came out with an album here just a few weeks ago. That's a killer album if you're into like very big vocals, harmonies, kind of in the vein of like Crosby, Stills and Nash, but with a little more of a rocking edge. I wish I could think of what it was called. It's not Sophomore, but I can't think of what it's called. But anyway, I hate it when that happens. Case of the Olds here again. I'm stealing that from Pete Pardo. That's the Case of the Olds. But anyway, this album, holy cow! It's hard to believe that somebody can be this prolific and write this much stuff and still be good and come up with new things. It kind of tells the story of Joseph. This part 2, I think, is kind of after he's been in Egypt. If I remember correctly, that was the first part where Joseph was imprisoned in Egypt, and then this is the restoration where it leads to his freedom and his rise to political power. So that is what is being, told in this one. It's obviously there's a prequel to this one, which was Jesus Christ the Exorcist, which is when he started getting into all these styles of albums. So anyway, this album, it's got all the elements of like theater because it's telling a story, and it gives that, you get that feel of theatrical performance, like if you're going to a Broadway type show. But it also rocks, and it also has all the prog elements in it as well. There's a lot of songs on this too. It's a little over an hour and 15 minutes long. We got 16 songs, so there's none of the epic long songs like you would hear like in Spock's Beard or Neal Morse Band. A few of the songs on here, like towards the middle of the album, have the more straightforward Neal Morse Band, as straightforward as Neal Morse Band gets, I guess, stuff. And then it's kind of bookended by the more theatrical stuff. This one, like I said, doesn't get quite as involved in like the choirs and the strings and stuff like the original one did, but got a lot going on. There's so many songs, there's no possible way I would even attempt to go through each individual song, but a couple of the highlights for me were the opener, Cosmic Mess. You know what you're going to get when that one starts out. You kind of know where you're going to get with the album, but then it does kind of depart into other things as well. I Hate My Brothers is also one that really stood out. And then it ends with Dawning of the New Day, which I thought was a great, powerful message, and musically it all tied really together really well. So that being said, as always, I welcome anybody that's listened to this to comment on what they think of the comparison of the first one to this one. I know this is kind of a quick review, but it's one of those albums where there's so much happening in it that I don't want this to be like a half hour long either. So all I can tell you is that if you've listened to anything previous to Neal Morse, I'll say this about it. Neal Morse has a really good voice. I like his tone, and I like the way he sings. But when he invites other vocalists in to sing that have a different range and different style than him, he actually opens up his music in his writing style to welcome those opened boundaries that he kind of has within his own vocal range. It opens up a little bit to explore what these other singers can do, and it sounds like he's actually writing for their voice, and that probably what led him to be able to still discover new ways and new things to explore in his music. So I'll give that to him. It's there's little touches of jazz in this one too that I've never really noticed too much. I mean, obviously in Prague you're probably going to notice that here and there, but I noticed it more in this one than in his solo stuff than I have in any of the other stuff that I've ever listened to him with. Which I don't like jazz, but it somehow fit in here a little bit more than I would ever be comfortable listening to. But I'll also say this about it. I keep at it thinking of stuff that I want to say. The production on this one's very thick. It's got a lot of parts. It's got a lot of instrumentation, and it's a lot thicker and fuller than I think part one was. And I think that's maybe why I think it's more heavy, because it's just got a more full, thick, dense sound to it. So that's about all I can think of anyway on this one. It was a long listen. Not as far as in the length of it being only an hour and 15, but it was you got to pay attention. It's it draws you in, and it demands your attention. So by being a long listen, you got to be prepared to sit down and listen to it. It's not something you're just going to casually put on and walk around the house, doing chores. You're going to sit down and listen and pay attention to this one and to get the full effect of it. So anyway, now I'm done. So feel free to share, and subscribe to keep Neal's name and out there and live. He's doing a pretty good job on his own, obviously, but all these artists can always use that, especially in the days of pop and crap and whatever that's on the radio nowadays. All these artists can use all the help they can get them to get their name out there and more people listening to it. So anyway, enough babbling. I'll talk to you guys on the next one. See ya.